I'm Erik Newton, VP of Customer Marketing at BrightEdge, and it is my pleasure to welcome you all to Titans of SEO Q&A. We are recording today, and it will be available in 24 hours. And moderating with me today is
Aspillera, Senior Product Marketing Manager at BrightEdge.
Before we start, could you guys all do me a favor and please post on social? You can use the icons on the console below, links on the side, or just go to your favorite social site. Let's get BrightEdge webinars trending. If you're a customer and if you are hearing about BrightEdge certification for the first time, you can study and certify by navigating on the platform to Settings, Profile, and Preferences, Get Certified. Settings, Profile, and Preferences, Get Certified. Once you pass, ask to be admitted to the BrightEdge Certified group on LinkedIn, and you can join more than 4,500 professionals across the world. Let's get started. The 4 Titans joining us today have used BrightEdge at 10 different companies over the last 11 years. First, let me introduce Dre de Vera. Dre is Global SEO Manager at Workday. He's used BrightEdge at Workday, SuccessFactors, Anaplan, and Smart Recruiters. He has a customer video on the BrightEdge resources that covers integrated search and other topics, and he quickly got that video into first position on YouTube. This is a great example of using a vendor to help elevate SEO and your personal brand, and it's also a great example of doing cross-channel SEO work between the primary horizontal SEO and the vertical search engine of YouTube. Dre is a member of the San Jose BrightEdge user group. Welcome, Dre. What SEO are you working on lately?
Hi, Erik, and hi, attendees. I'm currently working on global translation of my keywords. As you know, I have websites in EMEA and APAC, and this is big. I'm hoping to get these integrated into BrightEdge very soon. And on the agency side, I've been doing a lot of local. A lot of people want local nowadays. And of course, my video SEO.
Thanks, Dre. Yulia Kronrod is the Director of Organic and Paid at Insureon. Prior to that, she was an SEO manager at Adobe, and prior to that, she ran her own shoe store online and physically. Yulia published a great blog on hreflang for the BrightEdge blog. Yulia had so much content when I interviewed her for her video that we had to split it into 2 different videos, which you can see up in the resources section. Yulia is a member of the San Jose BrightEdge user group and hosted the Q4 meeting. Yulia, what are you working on lately?
Hi, Erik. Hello, everyone. I'm working on the site migration to a new CMS, new site architecture, and rewriting all content. Very exciting. Fantastic.
Next Titan to introduce, Eugene Fagan is at SearsPartsDirect in Chicago. Prior to that, he was SEO manager at Quill.com, where he did a range of successful technical SEO, including a page load speed project that generated material improvement in results. Eugene has a video and a case up in the resources section of BrightEdge. Eugene is the moderator of the Chicago user group. Eugene, what are you working on lately? Eugene? We don't have audio for you. Now
Sorry.
we do.
Sorry about that. I forgot to unmute myself. So I'm working on PartsDirect, which is a large site if you ever need parts for anything of your at home. And we have over 8 million SKUs, and we're going through a site rebuild. And a new CMS, and at the same time, I also have home services, which is also a whole project on its own where it's mostly local. So those are the 2 large projects I'm working on right now.
Fantastic, Eugene. Thanks for joining today. Next Titan is Kirill. Kirill has been a leader on the SEO team at Adobe for the last 8 years. He is strong in all areas, but we have a lot of fun with the fact that he has the quick answer for Google Quick Answers sometimes when it's showing up. And spoiler alert, that quick answer is a blog he wrote for the BrightEdge blog. Kirill has spoken at 5 different share conferences, which I think might be a record. Kirill also has a customer video, 2 or 3 share videos, 2 blogs, and a case up on the site. Kirill is a member of the San Jose user group and has been since it was actually part of the Bay Area user group before it split off. Kirill, welcome. What are you working on lately?
Eric, thank you for inviting us, and thank you everybody for tuning in today with questions. Probably the biggest project right now is re-architecting the site, the Adobe sites, with a new, more SEO-friendly platform. So a lot of work on page load speed and mobile-friendly.
Fantastic. All right. So We've already got lots of questions pouring in, and in order to get through as many questions as possible, we'd like you to organize your questions with a little bit of metadata, a little bit of a tag. So if you could put on-page colon, for example, off-page colon, technical SEO colon, href, lang, canonicals, we will bucket these into 5 or 6, 7 different groups to make it easier for me and Mark to direct the questions to the Titans. Algo changes, universal content, and tracking and reporting. So go ahead and start asking your questions now. We're going to try to get to as many questions as we can during the webinar, and the ones we don't get to, we will be doing different things with content like post-webinar content production opportunities. All right, so you've heard a little bit about user groups. We have user groups in 10 cities across the world, from London all the way across the United States, Atlanta, Austin, Boston, Chicago, Cleveland, Dallas, San Jose, San Francisco, New York. So if you are in one of those cities, please go to the BrightEdge, brightedge.com/community/user groups, and just click on the plus button for your city and sign up for that user group. And when the next user group is organized, we do them about 3 times a year. I'll be sure to invite you to that, and then you can meet people from the community in person.
And it's also great, by the way, I just want to say that this is a great environment. Sharing, you meet a lot of people.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. We definitely like it. So we've got more than 300 people on the webinar. We had a lot of registration, a lot of interest. So this is part of our digital community effort, and the user groups is part of the physical community that we build. So there's some new research that Mark and I have been working on over the it's actually taken us about 4 or 5 months to get it finished. We created 7 industry vertical research reports with click curves and benchmark data by industry. And you can find those at brightedge.com/resources/research reports, and find your industry. We're going to be adding a few more industries over the next couple of months. And that is our preamble. Mark, do we have enough questions to get started?
I think you could say that, yeah.
Yeah, we got enough questions?
You could say that, yeah.
All right. So, Mark, why don't you route the first questions for us?
We've got a great one that we can start off with that I think we can do as a round robin. Do you have any specific backlinking strategies that brought you success in 2018?
All right. Let's start with Dre.
Yeah, my backlinking strategy is more industry specific. I've been in the HR industry for a good 8 years, and during the time that I was in this industry, I would register myself into industry websites like hr.com, recruitingblogs.com, and when you register yourself and become a member of these communities, you can easily put a backlink in your profile.
Nice one. Who's next? Eugene?
I mean, I go the traditional route, the PR route, so that's a pretty easy one. And then at the same time, besides the PR, we sometimes, we'll actually produce content that gets distributed out for link building purposes.
All right. Kirill, Yulia? You have a good story?
The PR route is a good one as well for us. It works well, and creating a regional research in your industry, like the data or polls that you produce get picked up by journalists and people reference you, or also providing quotes from your leadership team or other thought leaders in the company, and just creating great content that people link to, and our blogs get picked up a lot as well for linking.
So a big part of Adobe strategy is non-branded optimization, so feature pages, pages focusing on features, and those we were thinking whether or not we want to go to the avenue of linking, but we found out that people generally link really well to good quality content. So like the big piece of it for us is quality content, and that attracts links. But on the other hand, we have a lot of content that's targeted to people, customers and along their customer journey. So we would have marketing content, and we would have help content, tutorials, and we would have blogs. And it's always there is always something you can find to cross-link thematically, and make it not just SEO, but also experience for people who land on certain areas of the site and then can navigate to semantically relevant. One quick case study we had was with end screen cards. So this is kind of another linking opportunity. And this one, I wouldn't say SEO specifically, but we found out that the engagement of people who are clicking from tutorial videos on YouTube through end screen cards to tutorial hubs on our site, engagement of those people going into trial is actually higher than people who navigate through search to those pages. So just a little tip that this is another avenue. Yeah.
Cool. What's next, Mark?
Yeah, I think this one's for Eugene. Any advice SEO-wise for managing a website where a large volume of items are being sold?
Yeah, so we prioritize everything based on page type and the revenue per visit we get on that page type. So we break everything out into templates. So that's kind of phase one. And once you've broken everything out into templates and then break it down by revenue per visit, that pretty much sets your priority. Once you've gone through that priority list, that's when you can, cherry pick the ones that potentially have the high volume and the high CPCs. And that's kind of usually the strategy we go with.
All right. What's next, Mark?
I guess we could round robin this, or if someone wants to take the lead. Any advice on or experience in video SEO?
Let's go to Dre with video SEO. He's our master at that.
Yes, okay. For video SEO, if you want to do some video SEO on your page, what I found successful and I'm implementing now is transcriptions. Transcriptions under the video. You can easily hide, or like not say hide, but as a accessibility feature, you can say view transcriptions and use CSS to accordion the transcription and close it.
Tell us a little bit about video optimization at YouTube. What are your top 2 tactics, Dre?
My top 2 tactics on YouTube is Google 10 years ago. Basically getting your meta titles, meta description, and tags down and on point. Make sure you're maxing out. The other one is Google put in share buttons for a reason. Share at those platforms.
Okay. Thanks, Dre. What's next, Mark?
What's everyone's thoughts on the accuracy of the new Pagespeed Insights tool? So that's Google's new Pagespeed Insights tool. The many are the ways that speed is measured there accurate?
Let's go to Eugene for Pagespeed. I know he did a lot of Pagespeed work, and then maybe Eugene, Kirill, you too, right? Okay, Eugene?
So I do utilize the new one, but honestly, it's not the only one. I also look at GT Metrics. I also look at Lighthouse, their plugin, a variety of looking at all of them. So I don't want to trust the one source that they have for page speed and stuff like that. So I also have our developers looking at overall internal page speeds for that stuff. But in general, I mean, I trust it, but I like to use additional sources to make sure the case is there.
All right.
Yeah, I concur, Eugene. It's trusting is kind of a tricky thing. We use Lighthouse, and we primarily use web page speed and the tester, and then ping them as well just to cross-check. And one interesting thing with web page test is you can have actually your private instance on your server, so you can kind of emulate how speed works from different parts of the world, different devices. Yeah. Because we have, in a global company, you have data centers across the globe. So that's been working really well for us.
Fantastic.
Okay, here's a curveball. hreflang.
Yulia.
Yeah.
Yulia's our hreflang specialist.
So I'll read it out. I've been using XML sitemaps for hreflang submissions for localized EMEA subdomains. I've been having a lot of trouble getting all localized pages to be indexed, as Google is choosing the canonicals for me, even though all the pages have self-referencing canonicals. Any suggestions?
Well, we actually had a similar challenge at Adobe, but we have a folder structure, not subdomains. So we did notice that sometimes for largely similar content that you have across multiple English language sites, especially, Google might choose to canonicalize your UK site to Ireland or Belgian English, and it did happen, but it took a little bit of effort to resubmit and just making sure that you have clean sitemaps, you have all the duplicate annotations in place, your canonicals are matching the URLs that you're using in the site. Sitemap is critical as well. Like the protocol is the same. You're not using query parameters, things like that. And also getting the country codes and language codes right as well. This is critical. So just multiple check all these things and resubmit your sites, and you should straighten it up.
Yeah, I wanted to share our experience. So we, as Yulia said, that hreflang XML sitemaps are really helpful in getting your geo-targeting. So one thing that we've tried doing is automated hreflang XML sitemap generation out of a CMS, and it worked. But we have massive, some of our sites, especially tutorials, are so massive. There are a lot of files, and it's kind of the server loads. It's very messy. So we switched to on-page hreflang annotations, and that actually worked as well as the XML files. So just a tip that this is possible. And then for all the multinationals in the audience, another way to kind of on top of geo-targeting is we do Geo Routing suggestions. So basically, we understand when people come to U.S. site from U.K., for example, and we have a little suggestion saying, do you really want to go to U.S.? Yeah. Here's a link to corresponding page in this geo in U.K., for example. Right. And that gets people that are accidentally going, or Google is, Google has bugs, so Google can not misread sitemaps as well. It's kind of a layer on top of hreflang XML sitemaps.
Fantastic.
So follow up to that, are on-page hreflang tags a stronger signal than XML sitemaps?
No, it is the same. It's not advisable to have both because there is a much larger chance of errors or mismatch between the two. So it's either or, but
on-page kind of makes more sense to me because it's more logical if anybody else on the team is looking at it. If they're looking at it, they're going to see the code there, right?
Yeah, but they're a little harder to QA because you have to go into individual pages and pull the code there versus looking at one single file. Yeah. But what I like to do is to section the sitemaps when I was doing those manually before the automation in CMS. I would just go by narrow site sections and make sure that like this set of pages across the 62 international sites that we have are all matching and all codes are correct.
Yeah, and it's tricky if you have, for example, content gaps. So it would be, maybe some geos are missing some pages, and you want to make sure that your CMS produces clear XML sitemaps or on page so that you don't reference for 4 pages because Google does not like that.
Yeah, for missing annotations or for incorrect codes, you can go into Google Search Console, and there is a section which reports these types of errors as well in Google Search Console. In all versions,
right? Warnings or errors?
You confuse me.
One of those two, yeah.
Check later. Yeah. Mark?
Okay, another one, I guess, for the panel. What reports or metrics do you check on a daily basis to take action on and improve your site?
Eugene?
So between obviously sitting in BrightEdge and Google Search Console and Omniture, those are my 3 big ones that I'm sitting in 24/7.
Thanks, Dre.
Yeah, same here. I'm also in Adobe Analytics and Google Search Console and BrightEdge, and it's basically going through our audits, finding our 404s, and finding good 301 redirects if we have some good unique equity.
Yulia?
Yeah, same here. I'm used to be on Adobe Analytics. Now I'm on Google Analytics, then BrightEdge, then of course Google Search Console is a go-to tool which I'm daily in, and also for internal KPIs, our reporting, internal company reporting.
Anything else, Kero?
Adobe Analytics, Google Search Console, BrightEdge, those Monday reports are good. I just want to say that if you set up anomaly detection, the alerts in BrightEdge, it can easily be sent to your paid team, so you can kind of cover on paid, if there are some gaps in SEO rankings. One additional one, we're using Splunk for log parsing. That's interesting one because you can, by site section, you can set up kind of thresholds of what's regular amount of 404s are on the site, and then you can do triggers if something breaks. Yep. That's in addition to everything else. That's a good one for you.
Fantastic.
One for Eugene. For an e-commerce fashion retail site, what elements would you recommend putting on a 404 page? So I think this is specifically to keep them engaged and from becoming an exit.
I mean, we in the past for 404 pages would just put our top categories just to let the customer know that there are additional categories out there, and just we still had a search bar, but I don't really know. I mean, those are kind of, I would test out different experiences with usertesting.com or something like that.
Cool. Yeah, go ahead.
Just a quick comment. So we did a redesign of our 404 page because we had pretty high bounce rates on visitors that go to 404 page. On the first page they see is 404. It was substantially higher than 50% of people bounced off of the site entirely. So we did redesign, and what we found out that we had about 24% reduction in bounce rates right away, and significant amount of traffic flew to either search page or home page as a result of redesign. So very successful project for us.
One more e-commerce question. So for large e-commerce sites, how do you handle out of stock or kind of decommissioned products that might still be ranking for terms or have valuable backlinks pointing to their product page?
Eugene?
Sure. So I've done quite a bit of research on this, trying to figure out what everyone's up to. I kind of liked Home Depot's example, probably the best, where what they do is they keep the page alive, but they actually change the design just a little bit, and they say, hey, here's the old product you were looking for, but there's a new version of it that's come out. And so then you're redirecting the customer to the new product so they can actually execute on purchase. For us, we keep the pages as is, and we're trying to basically do the same solution, is keep the pages alive forever, as long as they're ranking, and then just introduce different products that are related to that one to help redistribute the traffic.
Cool. What's next, Mark?
Does anyone have any link building techniques for smaller or kind of local retail brick and mortar businesses who are just starting out?
I'd say, Dre, I bet you have a local game in your consulting company, right?
Yes. So locally, what's really good in local is siloing your content and interlinking. Don't forget about interlinking. Backlinks are good, but interlinking is great. And making sure you own your Google My Business listing, you can get a great backlink from there.
Thanks.
What's everyone's?
And the Yelp probably as well. I did some help for some local businesses.
Well, there's Bing too.
Well, yeah.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, Google My Business, but Yelp as well. Sometimes people just disregard the backlinks from their profile in Yelp, or not even using Yelp altogether. And that's a good, if not for SEO, for user experience. People would want to be one click away from your site.
Okay, nothing. What's everyone's thoughts on link swapping, guest posting, those sorts of tactics?
Who's our algo expert? Say, Kirill. Kirill, you're the one. You're most sensitive to link quality.
Link quality.
So he's guest posting and link swapping was a
link swapping
question.
So the thing is that I don't have experience with that. I don't even think we got links back from your blog at Adobe.
You didn't put them in.
I didn't put it.
You should put them in.
The thing, no, but it's kind of user experience for me. If content is compelling enough and quality enough, people will link. So I would rather focus my time on creating good quality content and understanding what people want to have on the site.
Yeah.
But that being so, link swapping. No.
I think this question is about is it good or bad? And it's generally out of favor. Guest blogging was put out of favor about 7 or 8 years ago.
I think it's still legit. I mean, if you invite a person who is an authority or a thought leader in a certain field, and if the links that they put out in their blog post make sense for the user, then it's totally fine.
And don't do keyword stuffing on links, because Google is not going to it's not unnatural.
The anchor text?
Yeah. It's unnatural. There is a case study on NerdWallet that was really interesting. Maybe we can post it afterwards. Basically, what they do is they create content like award for best city to raise kids in, and then people kind of brag, oh, we're best city. So you get backlinks from
Chamber of Commerce
and other sites. So it's kind of ego bait. Not quite on the question that Mark brought up, but like an interesting one to explore.
Yeah. So tell me more about anchor text keyword stuffing.
Yeah.
Like, what would be an example of something that's overdone? Like, 2 repetitions in 2 phrases, and all of it is hrefs?
Like if in totality of links pointing to your content, you're not predominantly branded, but more
doesn't have any
brand?
semantic variety. Is that what?
Semantic variety, but also people tend to link with either the brand name or some pointers like click here, and less often they do put the anchor text that is product name or something like that. So if it looks natural from the perspective of looking at all this set of the entire set of keywords that you're pointing to your site, if you have a predominantly branded or some pointers or some non-brand here and there and different variations of that, that's natural. If it's like general liability insurance, boom, pointing to my page, then again, general liability insurance, no, that's not going to be
And probably
natural.
Google is also looking at acceleration of backlinks as well, just to see how spammy that is. I mean, if you have 10,000 links all of a sudden.
Yeah, over time, how links change over time, that's also important.
Over time, probably it's not as sensitive.
Yeah. Does anyone have any experience creating or managing cluster pages or pillar pages? I think these were called roll-up pages a couple of years ago when I was working on them, but anyone?
Content silo, or it's like a product page, right? It's category page.
Category, and then.
So, Dre, have you worked on any category pages with any success or notable failures?
No, all good successes of siloing content. Say, like, if we have a category in a blog, you interlink all those blog posts under that category, linking to each other, and then back to the category, and then that category is powered up with all that link juice, and you push that to either your corporate site or if it's a certain industry you're targeting or a product that you're actually going to try and target.
Nice.
Mark, I think our SEO case studies are a good example of like product page getting a lot of credit for the amount of content that's below it, but not the individual content is Google understands correctly that this body of cases is a category.
Sure, and then I think it also is the fact that it's a living document. There's new content coming out there every week, right? Yeah. It's kind of helps as well.
We have some of this with our we're in the cloud, but there's version even on cloud there's going to be version like AEM 6.0, 6.1, 6.2, so it's going to be always the kind of a landing page that talks about documentation for that product that we have, and then it's going to be pages that are for those specific versions, and then it's kind of back and forth, so top down and then bottom to top. They can get people to find content for more of a head term and then for more specific terms around.
Good.
Yes.
Dre, could you share a little bit more about your keyword translation project? Like where do you start and what's your process?
Yeah, we're working with local agencies, people in market. We're not using Google Translation or anything like that because the direct translation doesn't equal what like our software is about, and it's more with local agencies or in-house in language speaking.
All right.
And one quick experience. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, so it's exactly the right thing in my mind as well. So we do use like agencies, localization agencies, and do in-country keyword research so that it's not translation. It's kind of, we provide guidance of what we optimize in the US to give some idea of keywords and search demand, and then they do in-country keyword research, and then the on-page is translated separately, but then they use keywords that we have for titles, meta descriptions, headers, and kind of reuse it to strengthen the main on-page content. And one quick kind of shout out, I guess. We also use DataCube for our localization team so that they can do in-country keyword research really quickly, switch between accounts to do very quick lookups for keywords and search demands in those countries.
Cool. Bing just made a cameo appearance a couple minutes ago. So next question is, should we spend energy on non-Google search engines? I think the short answer is it depends, but yeah.
Well, it depends on many factors. If you're international, then you would definitely want to spend time on Baidu and Naver and Yandex, and Bing for that matter. But also at least have your basics covered with Bing, even if you're not doing heavy lifting there, like registering your webmaster account. If you are a local business, register your local business listing because it's not taking a lot of time. Submit the sitemaps. Make sure you kind of revisit the errors that are showing, or any messages that you get from Bing. Search Console. No, it's Webmaster Tools. Now it's become confusing. One is Search Console, the other one is still Webmaster Tools.
the thing, I mean, the key for me is optimizing for search engine versus optimizing for user experience. So in my experience, when we optimize for user experience, it's going to be the benefits for Bing and for Google. And, it may be different, like Baidu, I think, still set meta keyword tags, but otherwise, you definitely have to pay attention to everything, all the search engines if you're global.
All right. What's next?
What's one of the biggest SEO mistakes that's commonly made?
Who wants to go first? Oh, not your own mistake. A mistake other people might have made.
I'll push staging.
Paid link.
Push a robots.txt file that has a disallow for the entire site into production. This is a bad one.
Yeah. How about Dre? Dre or Eugene, you have a great don't do, not worst practice?
Mine, I actually just recently had a client blocking their site through robots, and paying attention to your robots.txt file is very important.
Yeah. Eugene?
There's been so many issues in the past. I'm trying to figure out one that's the worst.
How about having people delete pages with no redirects?
Yeah, we had something like that happen recently.
That's happened.
Fun. Because the thing is, a lot of times with large sites, there's different elements that dictate the URL or the page structure. And so if they change it on their end and not realize that it has impact on the actual page, then it just starts breaking pages left and right, and nobody even realizes until all of a sudden you start getting alerts that, hey, there's a bunch of 404s getting hit.
Cool. So I would say the biggest one for me is, there are mistakes on site, but the biggest one is kind of how SEO plugs into the organization. Like the biggest thing for me is when they come in after the site launched and they're like, we need SEO. Like you got to get us before, but this is, engagement and kind of publicizing what you do to other things. Sure. Can I roll just a quick one on the previous question on, focusing on other search engines? One interesting thing is how to target China and Baidu, because that's for a lot of international companies. Look at robots.txt on Nike and what's another one? Apple. They disallow Baidu from indexing anything else but China. So there is some interesting things you can do with the targeting of search engines.
There's a direction for the Baidu spider. There's directions within robots.txt that are specific to that
to
spider.
Disallow every other regional
not China.
That's not China.
Because otherwise, Baidu scrolls everything else and spends time elsewhere.
So we noticed that on our site, I don't know how public it is, I don't care. So anyways, with Splunk, you can see how Baidu specifically goes after content, and it's really minimal. If you don't channel them to spider your China site, it's going to be very minimal. They're interested in every other geo as well.
Adobe site is huge.
So speaking of Baidu, Mark and I are finishing up a Baidu white paper. It's about 30 pages, and we'll have it up probably within about a week. And Kirill and most of the Titans took a look at the paper to audit it with me, and I've done another rev or two on it. So if you are interested in the China market and Chinese language market, have a look at that paper late December.
We're actually going to look with somebody on our team who is focusing on Baidu. I want to get some feedback tonight. So
let me give you the updated version of it because I edited it this weekend.
Okay, got it.
Cool.
Thanks.
What's next, Mark? Mark, I had a request that you push the question to the slide area with the command at the top of the search box. Do you see that? People want to see the question. Let's see if we've never tried it before, but let's see if it works.
Test it live.
Yeah.
All right. So on the topic of deleting
kind of works. A little small, but sort of.
I don't have a WYSIWYG interface, unfortunately.
Okay.
So I can't make it
good.
Read it out. So on the topic of deleting content, deleting pages and blogs from your website that receive virtually no traffic. Is there any case for that being helpful for SEO?
Well, that's kind of a case that applies to my website right now. We are doing like a complete review of all our older blog content, and so just back up a little bit. I believe John Mueller recently told the world that it's not. You don't have to delete the content that's receiving little traffic. It can still be valuable for customers for the narrow niche that it is targeting. So you'll have to just be a judgment on your side whether it's such a narrow topic, but it could be highly relevant for your content or for your customers, or the blog is not ranking, is not attracting customers because it's a duplicate or.
Oh my goodness.
Sorry.
Fire alarm. We're going to go on mute.
Is this ours now?
Eugene and Dre, pick out your own questions and keep going. All right?
Okay.
Keep going.
Okay.
From Chicago.
All right, Dre, what do you think?
Let me finish off this content marketing question on blogs and deleting blogs and whatnot. There's something called crawl currency within Google Search Console. I mean, well, there's how many pages that are crawled. If you know your website has more pages than how much Google is crawling, it'll be good to delete those pages to let them crawl all the new pages. I mean, this may, if you have like thousands and thousands of pages, I would feel that this is something that you can easily solve by freeing up some of those pages on pages that don't rank at all.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's the same. That crawl budget, or we call it crawl budget. Yeah. For us, you got to balance it. So you got, as an SEO, it's your job to figure out a way to increase the amount of pages that are being indexed every single day. But at the same time, you have a certain balance that you have to figure out. So like, if you're getting hit 600,000 times a day, great. How do you improve it? How do you make sure they're going to the right pages? At the same time, making sure they're not going to the wrong pages. Because if you're wasting your budget on pages that have no value to your business, that is not really ideal.
Hey, Dre, Eugene, we are going to evacuate the building. You guys carry on. We're going to try to come back in from the lobby. We'll see you in a few minutes.
Okay. Let's take a look at some of these questions here.
Good.
Do you see the questions here?
Yeah. So let's go with. Let me look at all of them. There's a question. There's a Q&A at the bottom. You see that tab?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So there's quite a few questions.
Okay.
So you take a blog page.
Okay. Here's a follow-up question. When you delete pages and blogs, how quick does Google index the changes, and do you see results? For me, I can take this one. When I delete pages or add new pages, I pretty much do a site crawl, like a fetch and render, and I'll get an up index within 24 to 48 hours.
Yeah, I mean, for us, it varies quite a bit. Depends on what we're deleting and how often, because if it's a page that was often trafficked, then it's going to come down very quick. If you want, you can even potentially push by, in Google Search Console, you can potentially delete it there to be more aggressive. So, Dre, what do you want to take next?
Is how important are semantic and related terms for content optimization? This is something I really believe in. Do you want to answer it first?
Sure. I mean, it's definitely important. I mean, when I optimize any content, sure, you'll focus on the primary keyword, but like 90% of the time, I actually try to mention phrases that are related to that term, because I'm trying to provide context to Google, whether the way I'm interlinking throughout the site, whether I'm linking from other websites, it's all providing context to what this page is about. So semantic and relationship is really, really important for me.
Yeah, and the way I implement this, semantic and related terms, is think of a high school report, like a book report, or whether it's a research paper. Think of the outline. I would do, my main keyword would be in my H1s, and then my semantic and related terms would be my H2s, H3s. And that's a good way to get a really optimized on page.
Let's see. Which one do you want to go with next? There's a let me mark a few that are answered so we can kind of clean it up. Sorry, guys, bear with us. Google crawls. All right, so there's one simple one that says, how many pages Google crawls on my website? How do I make sure it crawls the right one? So we kind of answered that. Go into Google Search Console. You can see it there. They try to update it daily, but not really. I feel like it updates randomly, at least for some of the sites I work on. So just go into Google Search Console and you'll see it there, at least for Google. What else we got?
Let's see some on page. Let me take some on page here. Okay.
You want to do the on page? How do you work with content team?
Let me see. How do I? Oh, where's that? Let me see. Can you read the question?
So the question is, how do you work with the content team on optimizing content, landing pages, and blog posts? What's the process look like?
All right, this is a good one. When you're an SEO within the company, you become the educator for all teams, whether it's social, content marketing, even the corporate marketing team where they do press releases. So you have to educate and talk about SEO and the importance of how it is. My content marketing team is basically someone who I work closely with. We've have them either have access to BrightEdge, the tool, and they're very well trained in BrightEdge as well. But what they're mostly in is in the data cube. Basically, they just punch in the keywords there, see what we can go rank for, and they'll just go off in writing. And again, the way I have them write is basically like an outline. Have the keyword, and then also go after the related searches in Semantic LSI.
I'm holding.
So at my previous organization, what we did was, so I had a challenge where everyone was creating content across the board without really kind of understanding the impacts or doing keyword research or anything like that. So what I did was I said, okay, let's think about what are the challenges everyone is having, what's the reason everyone is producing this content, and once they are, I created a flow chart, and I said, here's the flow chart you're supposed to follow every time you want to put any content on the site. If you want, because the thing is, a lot of times companies will be like, let's do a blog post or let's do a video, and there's no, like, sometimes crazy as it is, sometimes there's no real strategy behind besides just let's put out some content. So I created a flow chart that basically says, this is how you're supposed to do the content. Let's measure the content at the end to figure out, did it make any impact? And then can we recreate the same situation if it actually improved? So I would say make a flow chart and get everybody on the same page as to why they want to create this content, and then show them the tools of what you use to actually optimize information. So whether it's getting everybody on a BrightEdge call to explain how to use DataCube or another platform, whatever it is, this way everyone knows how to do it, and you're not literally the only SEO person. The idea is to make everyone at the organization know some SEO to an extent so that they can do some of the work themselves, and you give them the opportunities to work on the stuff rather than you being essentially the stopper in the process flow.
Yeah,
hey, Eugene,
you should become the expert.
Eugene, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, we are in Kirill and Yulia's car, and so we're back online with audio but no visual. So you guys ask us the questions if you got one for us.
Okay, I see one here, Eugene. What do I do differently for product page SEO?
So product page, I mean, I don't, it seems kind of a vague question.
Yeah.
For product SEO. I mean, you really, the big challenge with products is things going in and out of inventory. So you have to kind of decide, do you want to waste your crawl budget on something that's just gone out of inventory? So you have to make sure that if you know on the supply chain management that something's going to be offline for, let's say, 3 to 6 months, then maybe put a no index on it potentially if it's really like going to impact your crawl budget. Or maybe remove the internal links off of it and kind of work on that. So that's a little bit, but the rest of it are pretty much basic, same stuff.
Here's one that we can do around Robin. How do you tie SEO to leads and revenue?
How do you tie SEO to leads and revenue?
Yes.
Anybody ready? This is a good B2B question.
Yeah.
So, with B2B tracking, you use your marketing automation platform typically has a form that you connect to the form you use on your CMS, and that form passes the data. That marketing automation passes the data into Salesforce, and then you're tracking the source of that lead all the way through to close. So we definitely track every channel all the way through the end of the funnel. Anybody else?
There are going to be different KPIs, for SEO. On the site is going to be probably visits, and it's a page entry page, so that it's kind of clean SEO data, and then clicks on like submission forms for PDFs, for example, and then Salesforce will continue down the stream.
All right, what's next?
So Erik, can I chime in on this one too?
Yes. Absolutely.
So for this one, honestly, I brought up the revenue per visit, or RPV per page type. For us, this is how we decide and build case studies on technical enhancements to the site or showing any benefits that we're working on. So I constantly am creating case studies based on opportunity, based on rank, and based on RPV, and then that basically gives us a conservative estimate of how much additional revenue we could see. But at the same time, it'll also show you the potential revenue decline, which could scare quite a bit of few people. So you have to kind of think about that as well.
Thanks.
I've got one here that I took notes on before we had to make our exodus, but it's a use case where a person had migrated to responsive design for the website, but they were still getting a high score for Pagespeed Insights on desktop, but their mobile score is very bad, so they're wondering what could potentially be causing that. Off the top of my head, I'm thinking probably on-page image optimization, but if there are any other potential areas that could be causing that.
Try looking at the waterfall, either Pingdom or web page test. That will give you a lot of information. Could be sometimes images that are just, with images type, fonts, JavaScript, CSS, there are going to be a lot of the things that can go wrong, even if you're optimized. Even with responsive, because responsive is not responsible for, if you put 1 megabyte images on page, it's not, doesn't matter. And then one other thing is that also just physically looking at types of assets that you load on a page, but then also look at the kind of frame by frame. There is a visual on web page test that tells you frame by frame how you load your content. So
page, full page.
Yeah, just how it's loading, and against your competition as well, because sometimes you would be focusing on like total page speed and not, loading good relevant content, to get people something. Yeah.
All right, what's next? Eugene, do you have one? Or Dre, do you have a question up?
How often do you recommend to refresh content on a page to maintain the ranks? This can be around robin.
I don't know if there is a guidance necessarily, as long as the content is still relevant.
Yeah.
You can sit there for longer, but I would say
minimum of once a year. Once a year, you should change. If you're still fighting for rank on a particular page, once a year, add something new to it. An example of this is the book reviews that I do. The SEO, best SEO books and best marketing books gets a lot of traffic for me, and I update those reviews like every quarter. But if you wait as long as a year, somebody's going to recognize your position and come after you with fresher content, and they're going to figure out what you've done, copy it, and then be fresher. And then, Google will usually recognize that, and you often lose position.
Yeah, many people just don't realize that a lot of SEO is actually defending the position you're at and not moving forward.
Yeah. Especially when you're doing well, right?
So yeah, if you have competitors that are active, that are coming up with new ideas, refreshing their content, putting out new types of content, then you need to do the same with yours.
And I would also add that minding SEO and ranking is one thing, but also there is a user experience on the page. Just think constantly what you can improve. So one of the projects right now that we're doing is we have pages that are focused on non-branded. They've been ranking for many years really well. We don't see losses in positioning or traffic, but we're trying to constantly think about like videos. You know, is 20-second, 30-second video good enough for the audience? You know, ask your audience what they think, and maybe you can go for 1 or 2-minute video, even if it's more deeper topic. So think about user experience as well as SEO.
Dre, any thoughts on freshness and YouTube tactics?
Nothing. Okay, fresh. My thoughts on freshness is I refresh my meta description often. I try to drive up my engagement rate, whether it's from the organic results, and see what works. And there's one part where I'll actually put the date in there, the current date or whatever the current month it is, and you could see the click-through rates from organic just skyrocket because people like fresh new things, right? So if you have the most current date on your meta description, people will click.
Yeah. Good suggestion.
And one kind of on top of that, so we did some testing on meta descriptions, and we found that adding your brand term, so it would probably be relevant for those companies that are big brands. Starting the meta descriptions as brand for us increased click-throughs from search results because a lot of times title tag would be optimized non-brand and brand, and people scan kind of to the left of the search results page often, so that it mitigates optimization of titles.
Yeah, but speaking of ongoing optimization, yeah, meta description is a great example, but also titles. You want to see what other sites that are ranking on the same page are writing their titles, and if it's the same thing, then you're not standing out. Then you need to find a way to distinguish yourself.
I have another tactic. I add 2018. I add the year to the title tag and sometimes to the H1 because a lot of people are trying to make sure they're getting the freshest content, current stuff, current directions, current versions from Google, and they add 2018, and I often get a nice jump at the turn of the year to things I've done that with. And you just got to remember to take the date out. If you wait too long, then it looks like it's out of date. It'll do the reverse on you if you don't take care of it.
Yeah, for things like trends or news or what the best things to do you want to refresh every year at the start of the year, like a little in advance of the year, and then put out the new year, of course.
And also, just to mention a case study that Yulia ran a few years back, that kind of, you have a page, but then you don't think what the intent of the audience is when they search. So it was just adding a buy to a title tag of a product landing page that got people clicking. Instead of going to Amazon, CDW, or whatever else is selling software, they were clicking because the buy was a key term at the beginning of the title tag. So even if you're ranking well, it doesn't mean that you're driving, people with right intent at the right time.
Yeah. Dre and Eugene, do you have any questions?
Well, I want to add on to that for YouTube. The date works really well on YouTube. You could even change the actual thumbnail and have the date nice and big on there. Those get a lot of engagement.
Good. What's next?
Let's
Eugene.
Let's do some off-page. Any quick wins for B2B link building techniques?
Link building again.
Really good content, research, really unique content. Everything Google tells you about links is kind of what generates what people like to link to. Let's move on to another question. What else?
Let's see.
So here's one. If you have limitations with your CMS, third-party system, what are some ideas to help improve SEO? We are unable to access things like H1 tags, meta descriptions, per page as an example. We run into this quite a bit. And with BrightEdge, we are unable to accomplish this recommendation. So what can they do besides get a new CMS?
It's a technical, it's a relationship problem with IT and engineering and the people who are managing the site. I think you have to work on elevating SEO and getting some buy-in that they need to create access to the SEO and the marketing people so that they can do this work.
Anything you can show to show the opportunity cost of not being able to optimize those elements is going to be helpful.
And ask the support of the CMS that you're using if there is maybe a plugin or something like in WordPress, out of the box, it's not going to be SEO friendly. You need to have, a plugin, SEO plugin to enable a lot of the SEO functionality. So ask them. I doubt there's going to be a CMS right now in the market that would not address it. And the thing is that even if they don't have it, hearing it enough from customers will get them to build this functionality.
Or if there is something that still can be done, some elements that can be optimized, you do the optimization, measure the results, show the wins that you're achieving with that piece, and then take it from there, like to expand on other.
And then if nothing
areas
can be done, like H1s, or maybe explore an opportunity of dropping maybe schemas. There are different types. I haven't explored the H1 schema, obviously, because most of the CMS, but you get me, right? Just think creatively. If there's nothing else, what can you do?
Can Tag Manager inject metadata?
Would be crawled though by Google.
Yeah, Tag Manager, it can inject schema.
Oh, okay.
Sure.
Is there a way to do metadata in JSON?
I'm not sure.
Well, we could follow up later.
Yeah.
What else you got, Eugene or Dre?
There's an on-page. Yeah. I have an on-page question here. I've seen some pages that rank really high with slim content. I've even seen a blank page before. How does this happen?
The authority of the site itself, or maybe the page gets linked a lot.
Yeah.
Like in one niche, there is a website that provides a very rich glossary of terms, and some glossary items that are very slim and short, one paragraph, they still rank well. It's maybe because it's a go-to resource for people, and folks link to it, and it's also cross-linked internally very well. That can happen.
Yeah, for me, I've actually been able to do this myself with thin content. It's basically, you got to remember what one of the most important factors is in SEO is the meta title. I've seen like having your keyword, like if it's a long tail, you can rank for a long tail keyword. If it's in your meta title and some content, you can really rank really well.
All right, what's next?
Let's see.
And maybe a quick follow-up on the thin content. So one of the projects we're running, and it's pretty effective, is finding out pages that are have quality keywords associated with them. So you can do lookup, even as simple as data cube, filter on something that's high search demand of keywords that the page is ranking. Then also add the component of it's ranking beyond position 10 or 15, so it's not ranking high enough. Then you can do something like Screaming Frog to get to the pages, filter the pages that have 250 or 300, whatever the threshold for your site will be, thin content. Re-optimize those pages, add some content, and we have really good solid lists on those three optimizations of thin content.
All right, we got time for one more question.
Do you want to ask that one, Eugene? Thank you.
Sure. So there's one that's interesting. It says, I've read a few articles saying that multiple H1s is okay with HTML5. However, there are tons of articles saying that this is bad. Would you suggest one unique H1 for the page? How much more weight value is there in H1 versus an H2?
I would go with a one H1. It's my personal preference, even though I did read the same thing that it's technically allowed. But look, I'm looking at it at the page structure, the way you would look at the table of contents for a book, maybe, where there's one single book title, and then there's chapter titles, and which are secondary headers, and then subsections within those chapters could be H3s and H4s, etc. So it's so that you can lay out the content structure clearly, both for the user and for the search engines.
Yeah.
And if designers want to have the certain font type or size, then you can always add H2, H3, or span with a style so that you can get your desired.
Yeah, that's a very common kind of area of tension between design and SEO, where designers mistakenly use headers to style headers, which is not the same thing as the content objective. So they need to use other tests to style however they need to be styled from design perspective, but you need to clearly structure the page from H1, H2, H3 so that Google and users understand.
I found also that when you're working with your designers, make sure H1s are larger than the H2s and H3s. I've seen some sites get dinged for having a small H1, so and that's a larger H2.
Yeah, font sizes are pretty important. I've seen sites that don't even use headings at all. They just use font sizes, and Google has picked up that the largest font size is essentially the H1.
All right. We want to thank everybody for joining us today and going on this fire drill out to the car. And we had a lot of questions. We're going to figure out how to organize and respond to them. And we'll be blogging out some of these answers, and maybe some of the Titans will go deep on some of the questions and answers as follow-up. Thanks for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you at the next webinar. Please fill out the survey that pops up from the bottom of the console, and that comes in email. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.